Your support helps us bring you programs you love. Go to wyomingpbs.org, click on Support, and become a sustaining member or an annual member. It's easy and secure. Thank you.
When I told stories about my animals, I noticed that people stopped what they were doing and listened. Everybody is interested in the hundreds, the thousands of wild horses that are in the American West. Suppose a little boy caught and tamed one. I reached for the corona and drew it toward me.
Mary was always kind of a hero of mine as a kid.
She studied a number of different religions.
And held that ranch together.
She was very reserved and they felt she was shy.
She couldn't let Wyoming go even after she moved away from here.
Mary O'Hara garnered international acclaim for her books about the people and horses who lived on the Goose Bar Ranch in Wyoming. She was also an accomplished musician who composed all of the music you will hear in this program. But O'Hara was first and to the end a writer.
When I was 56, I wrote a story that became famous, My Friend Flicka, and ever since, people have been asking questions about the author. How did I do it? Where did I get my ideas? I am beginning this autobiography on my 90th birthday to answer all the questions.
I think that although she was 90, she felt that she could still write and that she should, and that's what she'd always done all her life, and she would continue it as long as she could.
I was born on July 10th, 1885, the third of 4 children, to an Episcopalian clergyman, the Reverend Reese Alsop and Mary Lee Alsop. I was named after my maternal grandmother, Mary O'Hara Spring. One often hears of outstanding success being achieved by complete dedication to that single ambition. I wanted to be pretty and lovable so that I could get married and have children, and then, like all the heroines in the storybooks, live happily ever after.
Her first husband was Kent Perot, which was also the name of my husband, his son. And I'm always very thankful that my husband was not a chip off the old block. Kent Perot was a womanizer, and eventually they were divorced, but they were married for 10 years. Mary's daughter, O'Hara, sadly was ill for many, many years, and she finally died in 1945.
My second marriage to Helgi Sturvasa was a happy marriage. He told me he had made plans to go into the sheep-raising business in Wyoming after the war. The man who would be his partner was Floyd Carroll. I was ready for Wyoming. It was almost as if I had intuited the fact that in Wyoming I would meet and get acquainted with those wild horses which roam our western plains. And unless that had happened, I never could have written My Friend Flicka. So we came here to these great grass plains, and I looked and stared and could not get my fill of gazing at hundreds of miles of rolling upland carpeted with emerald green. So this was Wyoming, I thought, a secret hidden world unknown to the rest of the country, serene and calm, with a slow heartbeat. Helgi already had his eye on a ranch 30 miles outside of Cheyenne on the Lincoln Highway.
My father being in the remount, from the remount division of the Army, came up with the name of remount for the ranch. And, well, Mary, she kind of fascinated me. She was a remarkable woman. She was always thinking, and she was always learning. She had a tremendous appetite. She wanted to know all about ranching and livestock and so on. And that's all reflected in her very remarkable books. She knew the details, the real story.
If you are lucky with sheep, you can make a fortune, but no one was lucky those years. Sheep growers lost fortunes.
Well, the whole country was in a depression, and there was no market for their sheep.
But then we threw in a drought, and the country just dried up, literally. And so at some point there, we couldn't make a living.
Financially, the ranch was certainly not a success, and the Depression really put an end to all of their hopes of making money. So it was very disappointing.
What Helgi and I had left was the ranch. That was our home for 11 years. The mile-square stable pasture was a terrain of startling wildness and beauty. A broad runway of level grass went along the county road fence on the south. North and west, it ran into low hills with a sparse, erratic growth of large twisted pines. The hills and cliffs became steeper, and at last plunged down to the level of Deer Creek. Here, all summer long, the mysterious shapes of the deer stole like shadows across the shafts of sunlight. The water loitered in winding runlets, and at last joined to make a little stream, and the stream made a bed of moist earth. Two antelope were feeding in the valley, curious and dainty as porcelain figurines.
I've taken the lecture on her all over the state, and what fascinates my audiences is how she adapted to the rough life on the remount. If she's out on a ranch or a farm, she has to be physically strong to do the housework inside and the field work on the outside. She has to be able to bake a pie in one hand and pull a calf in the other.
The winters out there were horrendous. Lots and lots of snow.
In a ranch, you had no electricity. You had no running water. You had an outhouse. And Mary, here she is from back east with all the amenities, and she had to go out in this. We had a two-holer, by the way.
They didn't have central heating. They had wood stoves and fireplaces. And you just had to be a strong person, woman or man, to live under those conditions, I think.
My bedroom was also my writing room and had my 2 typewriters in it, for often I worked at 2 stories at a time. I have named one of the yearling fillies Flicka. Why should this little filly not be the heroine of the horse story I'm going to write? I've named it not just Flicka, but my Friend Flicka, because of my feeling that it is so fine a thing to make a real friend of a horse.
And to write so beautifully and so intuitively. I always felt she could read the minds of her horses and her dogs and her cats.
Lippincott brought the book out in 1941 with a modest printing of 5,000 copies. The book was on the bestseller list, and the first printing exhausted in no time. Next, the foreign translations began, and eventually it was published in 14 foreign editions. Then the fan mail began to come in. That was close to 40 years ago, but it is still coming. If I had kept it all, it would have filled several barrels. The Lippincotts kept asking me for a sequel to Flicka. Why not? I wrote Thunderhead, then Green Grass of Wyoming, and they were as successful as Flicka. I was destined to be a writer. I wrote my first short story when I was 7, and since then have never stopped writing. When I lived in Los Angeles in the silent film days, there were careers of many different kinds in Hollywood open to women. What I wanted to learn was continuity writing. The original story had to be changed into a script, a book of stage directions, as definite as the plans and specifications given to an architect. My pen name, I decided, would be my two first names, Mary O'Hara.
And there were several successful women, and she became very successful herself.
I would never sign one of their long, regular form contracts. I wrote my own. They had to take it or leave it. After all, they knew I would play fair. I knew they wouldn't.
For me, the main theme of all three books is that humans are fallible, but a relationship, a close connection to animals and nature and Wyoming can heal the wounds that humans can't do on their own.
Black Beauty came out in the 1870s, late 1870s, and it was really totally from the point of view of a horse. And then there was nothing. Maybe no one wanted to take that on. And so when O'Hara's book came out, it was about the same time that The Yearling came out. I think the major contrast in those books is that The Yearling is in a kind of tradition of animal stories in which the way that you have to grow up is to lose your animals. So in The Yearling, the fawn has to die. In Old Yeller, he has to shoot his rabid dog. So what makes My Friend Flicka so different is the incredibly upbeat ending, the sense that if you persevere and take care of each other, you get to live happily ever after.
When the short story of My Friend Flicka was read in the class that she took with Whit Burnett in New York, she revealed that there was indeed a real flicker that she had had, and that this filly did not survive the terrible damage that she had from the barbed wire, but she didn't want the flicker to die in the short story, so she had the flicker and the little boy get well together.
The discussion went from what I expected to be 5 or 10 minutes to probably 45 to 50 minutes just on the dynamics between Rob and Nell, between the parents themselves. Rob was very much the authority figure in the family, and everyone was to please him. And they were so surprised that they hadn't run into that with their parents, and yet they could see it around them in their grandparents, and it gave them a whole new understanding of the older people around them.
And I think the power of Mary O'Hara is her ability to really understand young people and the hardship sometimes of having tough parents that you have to deal with.
I think in some ways Ken is her own son, but Ken's struggle with the world, the struggle with the horses, Flicka and Thunderhead, and the internal philosophical and spiritual struggles that he has, I think are also a reflection of O'Hara's own struggles.
And I think the idea of freedom is so caught up with horses. The idea that you get on your horse and you can move away from fences, from standard boundaries, and escape the kind of constraints of everyday life.
It's very nice to relax, or when you're stressed, to get on the horse and ride up to the top of the saddleback and scream. You can't do that in town.
Each of the horses is a character in a very decided way that I have not read in other novels with such power as she brings to the page.
Within the firm walls of flesh that held him prisoner, the foal kicked out angrily. He did not want to be born. He wanted no change. Here was warmth that never fluctuated. Here was, in some dim way he felt it, love and protection from his mother's heart. He would not be born.
Every time we go by Remount Ranch, I think, my friend Flicka, Mary O'Hara, that it's just our part of the country. It's Wyoming, it's our part of the country.
When I first bought the ranch, everybody wanted to know what's this guy from Colorado moving up to Wyoming going to do with that ranch and that. And I wondered what all the excitement was about. And I realized early on, I mean, this ranch was pretty special to those people.
Melanie and I went around last winter and did find most of the places that she was referring to in her books. Actually, everything is pretty much the way it would have been when she was here.
Mary started putting the pink granite on the outside of the house and that. And so it's been built, everybody's added on to it. From 1886 up until the 1980s, they were still adding to the house and that. But everybody takes this pink granite off the same pile and adds it to the outside of the house. And so when you look at it, it looks like it's all was built at the same time, when in fact it wasn't. Look at that old gal move. Later we'll be moving some cattle today, and then we've got to move some from one pasture to another. Unlike the days of Mary O'Hara, we're going to use four-wheelers in that.
It's more efficient to use a four-wheeler than a horse would be. We have 4,000 acres sometimes to cover, and it can be a 10 to sometimes a 20-mile ride, especially if you can't find a herd of cattle.
Helgi and I had been married now 25 years. It was the true, the great love. But what anguish had been enmeshed in the love?
Well, we all heard that he was a womanizer. He'd leave her out at the ranch a lot and would come to town.
It's very sad that she had both husbands betray her. And then when she started to write in New York, an agent, a woman agent, was very highly recommended to her. And she took on this woman, and she not only was her agent, but she also became her very best friend for 10 years. And at the end of 10 years, in an absolutely horrendous revelation, it was discovered that this woman had been embezzling all of the European royalties, which were considerable.
And I think the reason her two marriages broke down, one reason was because I think these men, with their enormous egos, couldn't bear to have their wives being so successful at doing what she was doing.
Well, I know that Helgi was, because there was a time when he tried to claim that he had written My Friend Flicka, and that was his book.
I would go east to live. I would be, from now on, one of those women I had always pitied, growing old alone. Whatever else I did, I never stopped writing. I let nothing interfere with my work routine. By 4 o'clock in the morning, I was in the kitchen brewing myself that first delicious cup of coffee. So by the time I took the first break at 10 for a hearty breakfast, a good deal had been done. After that, I wrote steadily until I was so exhausted I could not speak or recognize what I was looking at.
When I was a kid in the 1950s, I, of course, read the book, My Friend Flicka, O'Hara's terrific book. But, until about a year ago, I had no idea that Mary O'Hara was also a musician. It makes perfect sense to me. Her books are really loaded with musical references, and I had thought that, of course, was a writer's device. However, with O'Hara, it's just part of her vocabulary.
Her husband, Rob, brought in a piano for her and got her out of the house somehow, and so it was a surprise. And she would she'd just sit there and play one key and hear the sound. And if you play any musical instrument, piano or whatever, it just resonates within you to read that.
In the house where I grew up, music was taken very seriously. This was because my maternal grandmother lived there with us, and she was as full of music as a rose is of perfume. I learned by listening. Soon I was playing many things by ear.
Well, she went to a man called Vernon Spencer for many years, and he was absolutely her music guru.
I had first gone to Spencer because I already had a big pile of compositions and hoped to get them published.
In Mary O'Hara's heyday, the music industry was really turning into an industry. For women to find their way in that industry was very difficult. And she began to learn what it is like to work at the business end of composition.
I've sold 4 teaching pieces for children. For these 4 pieces, Schirmer offered me $50 cash. I replied that I would prefer royalties. They replied, no royalties, $50, take it or leave it. I took it.
For her to do that was an act of ambition, an act of hope, and also a supreme belief in what music is, which is a communication from one person's soul to another person's soul about what it's like to be alive.
I moved to Washington to be near Kent and Deirdre and their children. I began to think about those things I had always intended to do, but so far had not even started. One of those was writing a musical. I began to think of the Wyoming ranch and the sheep and the one old sheep herder who had lost his grandson, the boy and girl romance. And presently I was composing a song. I named it Green Grass of Wyoming and decided that it could be the theme song of my musical.
Mary had several things to contend with in producing her musical. She had written a musical and she was producing it in an operatic environment. The singers who filled the roles of her musical were lovely singers being trained in operatic vocal technique. The operatic trained singers are not necessarily the best actors and actresses. It's a different art form. So I imagine what happened is her musical was produced beautifully in a musical sense, but theatrically it probably was very stiff, and I dare say probably had an amateur quality about it.
Unfortunately, the Washington newspapers had very, very devastating reviews of it when it was done by Catholic University.
What hurt is that they said they were being kind. And when a critic says they're being kind, that means that what they really want to say, they're not going to say because it's devastating. And I think Mary O'Hara knew that. After all, she hung around Hollywood, so she knew what doublespeak was about.
She brought it here to Cheyenne. It was its second performance, and it came during Frontier Days and was supposed to add to the Frontier Day celebration that we have here every year. The press women had a big luncheon for her at the Plains Hotel, which is right across the street from the theater. She expected a few, and there was like 200, and it was in the ballroom instead of down in the coffee shop.
And although the Wyoming papers were much kinder, it was not a success. But she came back from Wyoming feeling quite encouraged.
She probably was elated to have heard the fullness of her work produced. There's nothing like it. I'm not sure she actually wrote the musical for its commercial marketplace potential. I think she wrote the musical because she needed to write that musical.
Except for possibly a postscript such as one adds to a letter, this will be the last chapter of my autobiography. It is the length I intended, and I am tired of writing it.
She had a lot of trouble with her hearing. She was almost blind. And for someone like that, it was just really, really difficult.
In the evening, when Kent comes over to visit me, he reads back to me what I have written so I can correct and revise it as many times as is needed. I am not just making time. I could not do that. It would be too boring. Besides, no prolific writer comes to the end of one piece without another already taking shape in his mind, sometimes 2 or 3.
Mary O'Hara died in 1980. she was 95.
My husband got a call from the publisher at Putnam's, who apologized for calling at such a time, but he said, "I want you to know that your mother's books meant so much to me as a teenager, changed my life, that I really want to publish her autobiography. And so please, when it's ready, send it to me and I will publish it." And he did.
The young woman who wanted, like all of the heroines, to live happily ever after may not have. But O'Hara, the writer, did find an unexpected source of inspiration in a Wyoming ranch. Her books based on this experience continue to inspire other writers. My Friend Flicka, long a classic, is still in print. Readers all over the world are thrilled to discover that Ken and Flicka still roam the high plains and green grass of Wyoming.